Welcome to the Bryan Foltice Behavioral Finance Podcast, where we unravel the mysteries of behavioral finance and unlock the secrets to making smarter, more informed decisions with your money. Now, here's your host, Dr. Bryan Foltice.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bryan Foltice Behavioral Finance Podcast. My name is Bryan Foltice, and today we are going to talk about FIRE. And this is the FIRE community, Financial Independence Retire Early movement. And I want to break down what the community is and talk about some of the pros and cons of the FIRE community. So thank you very much for listening today. And if you like what you're listening, and if we can still all be friends, even if you're in the FIRE community, I hope so, and I believe we can. Can you please drop a comment, like, and subscribe, whatever platform you're listening on? This definitely helps keep the audience continuing to grow broader and bigger and spread the word about behavioral finance. So again, today, looking at FIRE. Financial Independence Retire Early. And so I'll give you my understanding on the FIRE community, and I'm going to ask listeners to chime in. Let me know what I'm missing in this conversation. I'm just getting the conversation rolling here in my home office in Indianapolis, Indiana, so I can only see a little bit of the world. And so anything I'm missing, I am open and receptive to hearing you. So anyway, FIRE community. I love the idea. So the concept is saving up to 70% of your annual income so you can retire early and live off of small withdrawals. And so the concept of retiring early sounds very appealing. And I know from my own personal experience of living in Europe for about 6 years and going to all the different big cities in Europe, and you see all these tour buses and you see the people who are retired who have saved their money to go retire and to travel the world, and they're all basically looking at it from a window, and most of them are unable to move very well, and so they'll just pull up on a bus, see it, take a picture, and not really be able to experience the full effect or have the health to experience it. And so retiring early, enjoying life while you're still young, while you still have energy, I love all of that. And they're showing that, FIRE followers, if they withdraw, they like to use the 4% rule. So withdrawing their money for 4%, if you want to have $40,000 worth of income, they're using this old 4% rule that if you have $1 million, 4% of that is 40,000. So you can live off of that based on the modeling and historical returns and all the Monte Carlo simulations you can run. Probabilities are that you have a low probability of running out of money using the 4% rule. It's not a foolproof way, but still $40,000 is $1 million. If you have expenses of $80,000, then $2 million is kind of your target. But as soon as you get there, that is your cue to be financially independent. There's your FI, and RE is retire early. So FIRE is the combination of both. And so I, once again, really like the idea and the concept of this frugal living. There's a lot of benefits, and there's retiring early. That's good. But if you're okay with me asking some questions, this is kind of what I'm here for. I ask questions, and I try to use a lot of these concepts in my own life and try to take both sides and then make my own conclusion based off of that. So that's the point of my blathering today, is to talk about that and try to find the right fit for yourself and for myself as well, and how we fit, because 70% investing is, in my opinion, or in my world, a bit extreme. And so one of the good things I like about if you're able to save that much is that if you can be content, there's the element of contentment that many people like to spend money to give themselves what they perceive is happiness. And if you can save 70% and be content on that 30%, I commend you for that. I think that's a really good principle to live off of. We don't need extra things in our life to give us happiness. And I was just talking to my buddy at the gym who's 67 years old, and he is in really good shape and is an old retired police officer. He still stays in shape and does training with them, and was telling me about their conference that he's organizing here in town, talking about mental health. I was asking about financial decisions of people who are in law enforcement. And he says it's a real struggle. He said, imagine that you're in a dark alley and it's in the middle of the night and you're in a bad neighborhood and you're walking around and you're on pins and needles, kind of walking around and trying to protect yourself and really being sensitive to any noises or any movements around you as you're walking through this alley. He said, imagine people who are in law enforcement are living in that state their entire lives. They're 24/7 in this heightened state of, and the stress that's involved with it, and really struggling to disentangle or that world of their job and then coming home. How do you turn that on and off? And he said what ends up happening is you start getting out of balance with your family, and in order to alleviate some of your stress, you start spending money on frivolous things. And so he sees a lot of bad behavior stemming from this. And it's all about this discontentment sometimes, where we will spend unnecessarily on stuff that we feel like is going to give us happiness. And so I think I'm preaching to the choir when it comes to contentment around spending for the fire community. And, they're really trying to sacrifice their current spending for this early retirement and what they perceive as this perfect life. And so as much as I commend them, what are you going to do when you retire early? So what's the end goal? And I don't always get good responses when I see people online who are on this fire path and retiring early. They're just racing to this retire early just for the sake of doing it, and they don't really know what the hell they're going to do when they actually get there. And that is concerning to me, because that sounds like the same trap that people who have a higher amount set as a retirement date and no plan for retirement and no purpose around it. And whether you retire at 40 or you retire at 67, if you have no purpose, then you can really quickly deteriorate your own health and your own motivation. And within a year, everything can just really unravel and turn south, where we never anticipate this happening because we're just trying to get to that end. And so sometimes there's some negative ramifications if we get there and it just we don't have that purpose. And every day is a Saturday morning and it's cool for a little while, but then you just start getting into a rut over a long period of time, and it leads to an early death. So anyway, have a plan. If you're going to retire early, what are you going to do? Because you don't like your job. So this is pretty common here in the United States and around the world, that most people don't like their job. And so a lot of people are going to save their money just so they can get out of their job, which once again, I'm going, wait a minute. I think we need to reframe this. I don't want to suck it up and be in a job that I don't like just so I can get out and do nothing. Like, on both sides, there's no purpose. And so sometimes I feel like in order to get out of a bad job, we need to search for our own purpose and our own career that will be better suited for us, and find contentment in that purpose. So my whole premise is, can we find a purpose in your career while you're working, and then find a purpose after your career, after you're working, and have those clear before we start moving into this really aggressive savings environment where, you're saving 70% and spending 30%. So again, if you can get that straight, then once again, hat tip to you. I'm very happy for you. And I would much rather you err on too much saving and investing than not enough, because man, we've got way too many people here in the United States who are just way overextended in their own world, and they're not even saving anything. And yet I look at some of these individuals and I struggle a little bit with getting almost a little bit jealous. Billy Bob over here got his nice boat and his nice truck that he has, and he's just really living today really, really well. And so it's the complete opposite of the FIRE community, who wants to really delay their gratification in order for a nice payoff at the end. What the payoff or the ending, we don't know what kind of health we're going to be in. There's unknown. And so you have that kind of risk involved that you're going to really delay gratification, but we don't know if we're actually going to be on the other end in good health to receive it. And then you've got, like I said, Billy Bob over here, who's just living high on the hog today, all on debt, overextended, no really thoughts of the future or anything. And I'm sitting here kind of in the middle going, oh man, is there a balance between the two? And where is the balance? And so I probably at this point have more questions than answers, but that's where I look for. I look for, what is the balance between the two? What does retirement look like? And so even there, I go, I can save money for retirement or deferred taxes, but I'm thinking to myself, I know there'll be a time where I'll be ready and I'll know it's time to stop, but I don't ever want to stop teaching, or I don't ever want to stop serving people. I will decrease maybe hours or vigor or whatever as I get older, but I don't ever want to stop doing what I'm doing. And that's what I hope people, regardless of how much you save per month or when you want to retire, that there's this overarching purpose that you're trying to find that'll give you fulfillment, that'll give you energy and motivation to keep going. And yes, we're going to still save money, and we're going to save for the future, and you have all these things in place, but then we're also wanting to balance that with a little bit of having fun today. And so I don't know the number. I know it's not 70 for me, and I know it's not 0. And for me, though, I've already told you in previous episodes that it's pretty easy for me to max out my 401k when my wife, who's doing part-time nursing right now and starting her own business, she's paying pretty aggressively into her 401k. And so it's just a great way to save for the future and minimize some taxes from wages earned here in the United States. And then, after that, any money that I get from business or consulting and summer jobs, that all goes towards back into the business or into investments. And that number can fluctuate depending on how much is coming in. But if I can live at a point that's around 20 to 30 additional percent, that'll give me flexibility to pivot out of a career if I needed to, or to stop a wage when I want to, and give me a little bit more control. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do with our savings, is give ourselves financial freedom and independence. Give ourselves options if you want to try something different. Here in the middle, where I can still live well, but I'm also deferring some of that spending. So I just thought I would share with you some of the sides and unpack where I'm at with this, and hope that you are pursuing your purpose no matter how much you're saving, and encourage you to continue on that path, and that we can all be financially independent and financially successful and know that that's just one aspect of living a rich life. And so there's going to be more on rich living. And this is my story and my evolution as well, that I wanted to make it a number that I'm going to hit, and that's going to make me happy. And I'm realizing there's just way more to life than hitting that number that will most likely move backwards once you hit it. So more on that to come. But anyway, I hope, friends, we can, if you're in the fire community or if you're not, that we can still be friends. And I think we can. The term I want to bring out for I think you might call it fat fire, is the term used for people who don't want to embrace that 70%, but still want to try to retire early. And as much as I don't like to be called fat, I guess I'll take that side. I also might propose that we call it smoke. So it's like fire adjacent. If I can be smoke, that's a lot better than fat. And I'll leave it at that. So thanks, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bryan Foltice Behavioral Finance Podcast. We hope you found our exploration into the fascinating world of human behavior and finance both enlightening and thought-provoking. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes. And until next time, stay curious and financially savvy.